the net effect of the wave is still right on the line. But let me go back to the arrow analogy here. So, or not analogy, the paradox of, to capture your interest here, and this is going to be a long one here, but it's going to be good. So hopefully there's going to be a payoff, and hopefully this will be enlightening to you. In fact, I almost can guarantee an epiphany here at the end. So I want to do all I can to hold you on board. So, and to capture your interest, we're going to make you the focus of the experiment. Okay, we're going to do experiment here. And you're gonna have to give us a valid answer, or you're gonna get shot, or at least we're gonna shoot an arrow in your direction. So I'll be the expert archer, and I'll stand a distance away, let's say 10 feet or so, at the time that it would take the arrow to travel in 1 second. And you stand there as my target with a big bullseye right on your heart. And I pull back the arrow, aim it at your heart, and I let go of the string. And it takes exactly 1 second for that arrow to leave my bow and to enter your heart. Okay? So one second. Now, and this is Zeno's paradox, okay? And a paradox, just to make sure we have our terminology right. A paradox is when you have two or more proven statements, proven to be true. I mean, based upon your laws, you've come to the conclusion that, this is true and this is true. But when two true statements contradict one another, that's a paradox. So you have, how can two things, how can you be 4 years old and 6 years old at the same time? That's a paradox. So it's true you're 4 years old, it's true you're 6 years old. How can that be? So, and that typically means you missed something beforehand, so maybe something's wrong. But anyway, so the paradox here with this example, when I let go of the arrow, is that, and we won't go into a lengthy explanation because this is sort of self-evident. The arrow, at any point in time, is not moving. Okay? Take a point in time. Take a picture of it. I mean, it's either here, or it's here, or it's here. It's gonna, whenever you take a picture of it, I mean, it's somewhere, So if at each point in time the arrow is not moving, then at every point in time the arrow is not moving. So the arrow is not moving. So no harm can come to you. So I'm Ricky Ricardo. So explain to me what's going on here. And if you don't give me a good explanation, I'm going to shoot this arrow. And we're going to see. Of course, we know what's true here. But we just have to reconcile this thing of, well, if at any point in time it's not moving, and then at all point in time it's not moving. Well, this is actually not a paradox, okay? And so this is going to be where the epiphany is. It's in the way we think. And it's the way we think about a point in time. And this relates to my what's the point? So this is a big giveaway here. I'm sort of giving away more than I should. But it's related to time. So the one related to point is more mathematical, conceptual. This is more applying this to time. So the question is here, well, okay, let's pursue, why is this not a paradox? So let's say I develop a camera, okay? Well, a mechanical camera, can only go so fast. And I don't care how many millions of frames a second you take, it still is going to take time. Because there is an intimate relationship between time and motion. In fact, I would venture to say, as I've said before, at absolute zero, when there's no motion, is there really time? So it's an intimate relationship as there is with time and space, too. So, there still has to be time between one frame to the other. So then I get a camera where it has multiple rolls of film, okay? And so while one camera is changing from one frame to the other camera is taking the picture. And I can go on and on and on here. So there will always be an exposure happening. And then I could maybe concatenate all of these. But even if I did that, we still don't have enough frames, because a film has to be exposed to light. And light is nothing but photons, which travel at a very fast speed. But nevertheless, the film has to stay exposed for more than a point in time. Because if it were a point in time, there would be no time for the photon to hit the film. So, optical camera is out of the picture. Okay. So, my camera now, and stay with me here, is, I'm going to call it the Jello Ether Camera. You might have heard the term ether. Well, you probably heard it in terms of, ether putting somebody to sleep. But the ether, meaning the luminiferous ether of the late 1800s, that thought it was this stuff that couldn't be detected, that, the whole universe is going through. But that got dispelled. We won't go there. But so this camera now is really like a ether, but it's a Jello kind of ether. So it exists, but it doesn't impede anything. It doesn't impede motion. It doesn't impede light. It doesn't get in the way. But it's like Jello in that it leaves a trail. If you cut it, you can go back and see where you cut it. So now getting back to my Jello Ether Jello camera, what we have here, and this is between the distance between me and you, this 10 feet where the arrow has to travel. I have think of it, a very tall column of this ether, and so at the very moment I let go of that arrow, or the ether can be going all the time. I'm just trying to conserve ether. But let's say it's a continuous stream of ether going down. Tremendous speed. Doesn't mean no speed, but it's going fast. And so what this is when I shoot the arrow, this arrow now, instead of just going through atmosphere, is going to penetrate this Jello ether. Okay? And the Jello ether is going to be coming down very fast like this. So what this essentially is going to be, this is essentially, if you go down and look at the ether, it's like Jello, but it's got enough body where you can hold up like a loaf of bread. You can see the cut as it goes forward from, you know, my side of the 10 feet to your side of the 10 feet. So this is recorded, the motion of the arrow through all infinite points that exist between you and me. So now it's recorded this. How do you read this? I mean, how do you read this Jello Ether in terms of, you know, seeing the arrow in each frame, and the arrow is not moving at all, yet on each frame it's at a more forward point, and eventually it hits you, which again seems to be a paradox, because if it's not moving, it had to move between the frames, but there isn't any time between the frames. So, you know, we're getting into a real quagmire here. But now I have the viewer for my camera, okay? But think now that, I mean, the viewer, you want to see something, okay? No, you've got to get out of the business of seeing. Because to see something, you have to bounce photons off of it. And that takes time, okay? So you can't photograph a point in time. But what does exist at a point in time is location. So my viewer here is really just a keyboard. Simple keyboard, okay? And what you do, you type in the moment in time that you want to see. Think of it as just a translator. You type in the time, it comes back with the location, okay? So you type in, you know, okay, well, I want to see, and you know, the moment I let go of it, that goes from, you know, time 0. And the time it enters your heart is time 1. So we have 1 second here. Okay, so you say, I want to see 0.31467 hike. Okay. And it comes back with the corresponding position. Well, it was at, let's see, what was this? This was at less than 1 second. It was at 1 foot, 0.37624,734, and 50 more numbers. That's where it was, exactly. Okay? So, really what's happening, you really have, so what the camera did, captured. I mean, think about that. So this is at the fundamental core here, is that the camera really captured a analog signal, okay, a non-discrete, and in another term, a unity. It captured the whole thing exactly as it was, in an analog fashion. And the key here is analog, is that it's, you know, it's not a stair step, okay? It's not, well, what was it at this point? What was it at this point? What was it at that point? No. It captured the whole thing. So when you key in the time, it simply goes to that position on the analog curve, and it reads off the position to you. But here, the implication that you don't maybe realize until it's mentioned to you, that is, you have to type in the time. Okay? So if you type in this type 3146, blah, 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 I say it's 24 characters long. Okay? That means there's no more significant digits. It means, you know, everything else is zeros after that. Okay? But, there are a number of times more specific than, that 24-digit number. You could take it to the 25th. So you could you could always be more specific. And it can always be more specific. So what you end up with is a machine that you don't have enough time to key in the position of the time, so the time, so you can get the position. So you're back. So you've done it, but you have an infinite number of pictures there that you can look at. And when you look at them, I think what you have to understand, the camera doesn't show you the arrow. It shows you the position of the arrow at that time, because you can't bounce photons off of it. You'd sort of have to take the Jello and bounce photons off the Jello. So my point goes back here, and I think I'm winding up to the finality of this discussion today, and I hope you have stayed with me all the time. And I think the insight to be gained here, if it's not obvious, it's that it's an illusion. I mean, you run into and it's sort of the way we look at things too. When we look at things as being discontinuous, a lot of that's really illusionary, and I think the illusions come up from the idea that there is a point in time, and the point has no duration, and that's where all of the difficulties seem to come from. So that wasn't very much about the environment. It was a lot about unity and a lot about science. I hope you enjoyed it. And with that, I bid you a good day.